Roger Fisk. He's in D.C. He's a Democratic strategist. He got a pretty good view of that party. Let's take my assessment of former Vice President Biden first. Do you see him as the front runner?
I would at the beginning. I think what he will go through is very similar to when you remember when Mitt Romney considered running for his third time. Everyone loves the idea of someone as a candidate right up until they become a candidate. You become a candidate or even get within flirting distance like former Governor Romney, and you can drop 15 points overnight.
But why would the Democratic Party not embrace Biden, who's known far beyond all the other candidates and who's got the attachment to Barack Obama? Why wouldn't the Democratic Party embrace him?
A couple reasons, and this is me analyzing this rather than my personal opinion. I haven't seen a lot of evidence that the Obama touch is transferable in many situations. Stacey Abrams, for example, in Georgia. And then the former vice president was not a particularly compelling candidate the other two times he ran. So yes, he's added his 8 years as vice president, but that doesn't change the fundamental DNA of the individual who has gone into Iowa and some of the early states before and not done that well. And I don't think at his age or my age that anyone is going to be fundamentally transformed. He's the same person he was when he ran in 08 and roughly the same person he was when he ran in 88.
I agree. And when you go into Iowa, you're going into radical left territory. New Hampshire, not so much. New Hampshire, more mainstream. But Iowa, very radical left territory, so you don't expect Vice President Biden to do that well up against the socialist cadre that will be there. Out of the far left progressive candidates, who do you feel at this point in history is the strongest?
I think, well, of the ones that we know so far, and we're waiting for the cowboy boot of Beto to drop, who I think would be transformative in terms of the landscape right now. I'm not particularly grabbed by anyone, and I think we need to see another 4 or 5 people jump in until we get a full sense of the texture of this race. To jump ahead and answer your next question, I right now would be banking on President Trump to be reelected, should he wish to be. There's a part of me that's starting to think that the competitive side of him, of course, wants to be reelected, and there's another part of him that maybe wants to go back to that life that he had before all the demands of this.
I can tell you, trust me on this, Roger, he's going to run for reelection unless, something comes up that he's in serious trouble, but he wants it again. When you say that right now nobody jumps out at you, but Beto O'Rourke, who the people don't know. I mean, they know him in Texas, but they don't really know him. Why would he, as a white man, you know what the stigma is on the white men now? Why would he overwhelm somebody like Kamala Harris, who, as I said, checks off all the PC boxes?
Well, the interesting thing about both Senator Harris and former Congressman O'Rourke is how much their candidacies will impact the calendar. And there's always going to be the emphasis on Iowa and New Hampshire, but the fact that Texas and California are going to be waiting, 6 and 8 Tuesdays into the contest make that all very interesting.
Yeah,
I fundamentally think, to answer your specific question, that we saw a whole cycle of Beto running. So in a sense, we kind of have seen a full lap around the track. We've seen him post incredibly impressive fundraising numbers. We've seen him create a culture around his candidacy that he was able to maintain even while he grew. He was able to kind of navigate between national name recognition and staying intensely focused on Texas. So I think it's just it's more information to glean an impression from. That's mainly why I have a different answer for Beto than I do for Senator Harris.
I watched a recent interview with Mr. O'Rourke, who I do not know, I've never spoke to. He did not come across very well, and I would have destroyed him. The interviewer that he was talking to was kind to him. I would have just put him in a puddle. He didn't have the answers to very interesting questions that have to be answered. Now, you said something interesting, that you think that Donald Trump has a good chance to be reelected. Now, as a Democrat, and you know that your party loathes him, Why do you think he has a good chance to be reelected?
Well, first and foremost, he and I'll say this kindly, he has an uncanny ability to suck all the oxygen out of the room and suck all the media oxygen out of the national conversation. So just by the fact that there's one of him and 14, 15, 16, 17 other folks means that, just that math allows him to have a much greater say in the national conversation.
Now, I think that's a very astute comment you just made, because the balkanization of the Democratic Party is going to hurt them. But obviously, they're going to have to come to some kind of consensus, which is why I think Biden is going to get it. Because all the other candidates, Harris will win California, O'Rourke will win Texas, Gillibrand may win New York. I mean, they're all going to play well in their home fields, but there's nobody going to be topping out. And then it'll be interesting to see how they attack each other if they do that, because they're all pretty much the same. And then you got Bernie Sanders, who's going to be crotchety and out there. So it's going to be very entertaining. And then Trump's the big winner as everybody starts to. But I do believe there's going to be a primary challenge to Donald Trump, but it's not going to be that serious. Final question.
And if I may,
go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the historical parallel that I've been using is 1995, and as you well remember, the government shutdown, a newly assertive speaker, and I think there were a couple mistakes that the Republicans made in the cycle of 1996. One of which was nominating someone who was a generation older than the incumbent. And so when I look at that parallel and I extrapolate it forward, I think one of the keys is that the Democratic nominee is a generation younger than the incumbent.
Okay, but it's Trump. And Trump doesn't
Correct.
play like some doddering old guy. Biden's going to have trouble with that, but not Trump. Trump's going to be out there throwing those hand grenades all over the place.
Yeah, but I guess my point in that is that he has positioned himself more as a kind of bridge to a nostalgic past than he is a visionary for the future. And at least on my side of the aisle, it's
going to be about the economy and the fear of socialism. That's what they're going to run on. That's what they're going to run on.
Or I like to summarize it as yesterday versus tomorrow, and I think he's positioned himself as the champion of yesterday. So the question is who can define tomorrow?
Who's Tomorrowland? All right, Roger.
Exactly.
Very good. I really appreciate it. Very, very good analysis, both of you.